it's one thing when like all the military preparation of doing, what do they call them, treks?
Yeah, like ruck marches and
Ruck,
stuff, yeah.
Yeah, when you do like a ruck or something like that, what do they make you do, like 5 miles or something with all your gear? What's the most you ever had to ruck?
20 plus miles.
Yeah, with like full like 50, 70 pounds worth of gear.
Yeah, about that.
Can't even imagine, dude.
I mean, you know, it's kind of just going back to what you were talking about a moment ago.
One step at a time.
Yeah, it's all about your mindset and what you determine is doable. You know, yeah, there is some sort of physical limitation when your body starts to seize up on you or something like that, but
Yeah.
as long as your body keeps moving, you know, and your mind just keeps telling yourself, hey, go 10 more steps, 10 more steps, 10 more steps. I mean, you literally go nuts.
Yeah.
You'll literally go crazy on some of these things, but it's just what you do to keep moving.
Yeah. All right, another episode of Adversity Kings. We've got special guest today, Joe Malone, right? Like
Yeah.
Post Malone?
Yeah.
Let's go. Bring the mic definitely a little closer. Did we tell him to bring it closer or did we tell him no?
Just up.
Okay, just up. It picks up everything, but I just think
There we
it would
go.
look a little better.
That better?
How you doing today, bro?
Man, I'm doing great, bro. I'm living, I'm loving.
Yeah.
You know, I've got all my health, and that's really important to me. My family's doing great.
Health is the
So,
most important.
yeah, how about you?
I'm doing good, man. Just got back from Miami, came back for you, and then I got another gentleman coming in after you.
I love Miami.
Yeah.
I love the
It's a
energy
good
down
time.
there. Yeah.
I was went shooting, and it's embarrassing. My girl's a way better shot than me.
Dude, a lot of women are.
Well, she was in the IDF, so she did combat.
Oh, she's Israeli chick?
Yeah,
cool,
Israeli
man.
ship.
Nice.
So yeah, she was in the IDF, and like, dude, her like, what do you call it? The grouping? Is it called the grouping?
Yeah, grouping, yeah.
Insane, bro. Like all of it, like headshots, like all within like probably a 2-inch diameter.
Rifle,
maybe less.
pistol?
Rifle.
How
yeah.
far were you guys?
I think she had it out probably like 20. Like I have it like 5 yards away, and she had it like probably like 20.
Oh, dude, tell her I said that's trash, bro.
Yeah?
She better be pushing it out to at least 100 if she's
100
using a
yards.
rifle.
Well, actually, no. Maybe I don't know. We're in like just a simple Florida gun terminology and everything. Let me bring up the videos. So she would hate if I actually showed this, but I got us a machine gun also,
Nice.
and we were ripping the machine gun, and they were going crazy. I honestly want to open up a gun range because it seems like that's the only way you can get a machine gun.
It just depends, man. I mean, so I'm a dealer. If you want to purchase something, just let me know, man.
Seriously, even to Florida? Because
Yeah.
that's the reason I'm going. Another reason I'm going to Florida is because like I didn't want to get the because I'm non-resident of Illinois. I spend most of my time outside of Illinois, and I didn't want to have to go through the what do they call it? Where you have to get the what's
FOID
the thing
card?
here? The FOID
Yeah,
card.
the FOID card, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I could ship guns anywhere, man.
I don't know what gun this is. So you can leave. I don't know. I don't have the machine gun. I must have deleted it.
Oh yeah, it's just like a M4 AR-15. Damn, look at her going. Good trigger finger discipline. I like that,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, she knows what she's doing.
Absolutely, it freaks me out. I'm like,
Those Israeli chicks they're tight, man. They're
yeah,
what's up.
dude. Let me see if I can get the machine gun. I want to show the machine gun so bad. Oh, here, I got me with it.
There we go. You got it.
I look like an absolute idiot. I didn't need to clip in 2 seconds.
Yeah, dude, it goes fast, man. People don't realize if you don't have what's called a belt-fed weapon system.
Dude,
I mean, you're dropping those mags. pretty
is
quick.
that where the ammo is exposed?
Yeah, and it's just like floating.
So I shot, I think it's a SCAR. They called it like a pig or a SCAR or something like that.
A
in
SCAR,
Texas.
yeah, a SCAR doesn't have a belt fed. A SCAR is like a magazine fed.
Yeah.
Probably like a saw.
SAW,
Yeah,
it was
it's
a SAW.
249. Yeah.
Bro, that shit was insane.
Yeah, it was cool, man.
That was insane.
Yeah.
Before I get carried away on everything, I like to start with origin, man. Where are you born and raised?
Right out here, man. Willow Springs. It's like right on the cusp of the city. It's a
Okay.
mafia town, like a motherfucker. I never knew that as a kid, but as I grew older, I started to see things. And our old police chief was actually arrested for accessory to homicide for
Wow.
the Cook County prosecutor's wife back in '92.
Wow.
Wrote a book when he was in prison, and I read that a few years back. And man, a lot more things started making sense to me. You know, there's like this billiards room where there's always these old Italian guys and nobody else goes in there. I was like, starts to make a lot of sense. So
Wow.
yeah, it was cool, man. There's a lot of woods over there. So like Al Capone back in the day used to have a bunch of hooch joints running around there, and so I got to basically hang out on train tracks with my friends. Spent a lot of time underneath the bridge. Got hooked on some pretty hard drugs at a really early age.
I thought I saw that. It was going through your story and just kind of creating a biography. You had a massive life change.
Oh yeah, my first My first experience with needles and heroin, I was 16 years old, and then I shot that shit up for probably like 2 years roughly. And,
Yeah, you had the long hair,
oh yeah.
and then you went straight into the military, and it looks like the military saved you.
I wouldn't say the military saved me. I would say that the desire to be different, the desire to explore what the world really had to offer, is what drove me.
Now, did you go through like the whole withdrawal process
Oh, yeah.
in the military? Like, was that in the military? Was it like
No,
at boot
hell
camp?
no.
Was it before?
So on December 3rd, 2005, I watched my best friend John graduate from Marine Corps boot camp, and he was a brother to me more than, anything. And when I saw his life transformation, dude, I was floored. And exactly 1 year to the day, I ended up graduating. And so I spent that whole year
Wow.
detoxing. Like January, February that year was a big detox time
Yeah.
for me. It was brutal. It was very difficult.
Did you do it yourself, or you had programs?
No, I did it all myself.
What a dog. I don't know if you listened to the podcast I did with Eric Spofford. Sold his company for $100
Yeah,
million.
yeah, I know Eric, yeah.
And dude, similar story. Did it himself.
Yeah.
On the couch, throwing up, shitting
Oh, yeah.
himself, and just in his mom's couch, just him, God, and hope, faith.
You find it really quickly, man. When your bones are literally just like burning, like your bones are on fire, you just find a whole different meaning, man, in life and suffering, and it's a painful thing. And nowadays I feel bad for the dudes who get hooked on that stuff because it's a whole different level of addiction. It's way more sinister. Like I got prescribed some Oxy after like a surgery I had a few years back, and I remember waking up the morning after and like wanting more Oxy, like more fentanyl basically.
Yeah.
And I just remember feeling like this demon in my gut. I was like, man, this is bad. This stuff right now is really, really bad. And I had those other experiences in the past from using heroin and stuff. But nowadays, it's just like a whole new level of sickness, man. I feel pretty bad for anybody who gets hooked on it.
I get so turned off thinking about, and it's unfortunate because you look at individuals like Dr. Fauci, who just comes out and apologizes for all the misinformation, and it's all funded. But I think about medical insurance, and it's like, dude, the health insurance funded and backed by the government, and how they coincide with one
Yeah.
another. So it's almost like I almost tell like, my assistant or my mom or whatever, when they're booking doctor appointments, I'm like, can you try to find me a doctor that like isn't like, covered by insurance? Because like, they're going to be persuaded.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, by the propaganda
Yep.
of the government. I'm like, I don't know what they're going to try to put in my body. You literally have no idea. I get worried. I'm like, I had to go get a cortisol shot because I'm starting to develop like arthritis in my thumb. And I'm like, what if they're putting like the vaccine in me or something, which sounds insane, but I get paranoid like that. I don't trust them.
It's not paranoid these days, man.
They're
injecting animals with these mRNA vaccines now so that they can get absorbed by the human during consumption. And when you look at the big picture, so I went in the Marine Corps, ended up going in the Special Operations Command, and I deployed all over the world, and I started to see things from a very different perspective. So you got the street version of me, you've got the Marine version of me, and then you've got this very unique perspective, having been the action arm for the executive branch and going and doing some pretty crazy things. And what I started to see was that globally, the way that the United States dominates is because of the power of the dollar. And Ray Dalio talks about this a lot. I see you got a couple of his books over here. That was one of them. And because of the value of the dollar, the CIA will send in what's called economic hitmen, and they'll put other countries in debt to the United States. But one of the stipulations of them giving them that money is that they can only spend it on United States companies. So that's where it all really begins. We put countries in debt, we take over their infrastructure, we take over their food, their pharmaceuticals, and then it just becomes this repetitive, perpetual cycle. And we really do it here in the United States because it's more difficult for us to do the entire cycle in foreign countries. So for example, in the United States, we eat shit food. We go to the doctor. The doctors never want to solve the problem, they just want to give us more pills and medication.
Yeah, it's an inner cycle.
Dude, I was at the doctor's this morning, and the nurse was like, "You're not on any medications?" And she was surprised.
Yeah.
I was like, "No." She goes, "No vitamins or nothing?" I was like, "No." I was like, "Is that surprising?" She goes, "Yeah, kind of." I was like, "Well, that's fucked up." 60% of Americans are diabetics. So from the prescriptions, then they have like all the healthcare. It's like $30 million, I think, is the average cost of a human being throughout the medical field, throughout their lifetime. And so then what happens is, they just repeat the cycle. They rinse and repeat. So you're sick for your whole life. Cool. Now they got you hooked on all the drugs. You end up dying, living a miserable death. You're so inundated with your own problems physiologically, mentally, and emotionally, because a lot of this food also creates a lot of internal stress on the endocrine system. That's why we get a lot of these active shooter kids these days, because
absolutely.
they're being persuaded by their search algorithms and the shit food that they're eating. And so anyways, what does all that do? Well, it keeps everybody as a bunch of peons, and everybody's just bickering over a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
And nobody ever actually gets to really free their mind and to make a lot of money and to have the freedom to choose what it is they want to do in this life, in this world. Because how many people do you know where they just live and wake up every single day miserable and just like pissed off? And we live in the richest nation ever to exist in the history of mankind. You know, you go out to a lot of these other places, dude, literally kids fucking walking for 4 hours just to get down to the river.
Yeah.
Like to get water, and then these little kids have to carry water back up, and water's heavy,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
I mean, their whole day is designed around getting water for mom and dad.
Yeah.
And yet, when you look at people in America, we have it so good that we can get fat as fuck and bitch and complain and get depressed and then shoot ourselves and everybody else around us. So
Yeah.
it's a vicious cycle. You're not paranoid at all. It's a real
Super
thing.
vicious, dude. My girl says something really cool, and it's something along the lines of privilege is blinding to those that have it. Something along the lines of just, and I completely agree. You know what I mean? Like when you analyze different just communities that are pretty much, you know, placed all over. You have your higher level net worth communities, and not even just like based off wealth. You know what I mean? Because usually there's a certain level of competency that kind of corresponds with wealth as well. But once a community has centuries or a significant amount of time of exposure to like privilege, there's just a percentage of people that like over abuse it and they forget where they came from.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? You forget what like got you to where you're at. And I think I heard Elon Musk say something on like our minds neurologically adapt to every circumstance, regardless of how negative it might be or positive. There's an adaptation of you wanting more or accepting also like we do a certain level of prison. Like one of my favorite books was Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for
I
Meaning.
was just about to say Viktor Frankl.
You know what I mean?
was just
Like,
about to
you can
mention him.
adapt to shit
Yeah.
that you never would have imagined. Like everybody thinks like, you know, people look at the, you know, humans, it's like going through buds or going through all the training and all the horrible things that I can't even imagine you had to physically endure. It's like prior to you doing things that you've probably done, you probably thought, I never could do something like that.
100%.
And then you go and do it and you're like, it's just one more breath, one more step,
Yeah.
one more day, one more moment. And I love where like that exposure of like what keeps a man going when he's literally in a prison camp, a prisoner of war, and has his family murdered, has nothing, has no access to like your typical common like things in life. You know, it's not a matter of like being optimistic of getting home by Christmas. It's a matter of accepting where you're at and taking life one day at a time.
You know, he's never badmouthed the Nazis either.
Wow.
He's never slandered the Nazis.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Had a conversation this morning with a guy about that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. You know, there's another book similar to that, and I think it's like the last Highlander.
Okay.
And that's about a British man that was a prisoner of war, I believe, in like maybe Vietnam or South Korea. Super phenomenal, super relatable, super similar. Where it's like everything like aligned. It was almost like the identical book.
Wow.
But it was cool to read. Like, I thought Viktor Frankl, because you read it and you're like, you know, maybe that's just one of a kind. But then there's other stories.
There's a lot of them out there.
There's a lot of stories like that.
Yeah.
Dude, so who were you closest with growing up? Mom, dad, brother, sister, friends?
My buddy John.
John?
Yeah, you know, for whatever reason, we were just a couple of, you know, punk kids, and we just had a knack for adventure, and you know, that's basically where it took us, man. Just trying to chase chicks and be cool with. Unfortunately, we just got mixed in with this disgusting older crowd, and of course, at the time, you're hanging out with 50-year-olds, ditching school. You think you're cool, smoking weed with them.
Yeah.
I look back at that now, I'd be like, I would kill that motherfucker. Like, if I
Yeah.
ever saw somebody like that hanging out with my 13-year-old son.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like, you know, just disgusting, you know, pedophile, manipulative people. But we always kept tight, man. We had John, James, Joe, and Justin. We called it the J Crew. And yeah, man, it was a good time growing up.
So when did life really hit a big pivot for you? After getting clean, military, like when was another level of like pivot?
So I got out the Marine Corps after my first 4 years. I never planned to stay in, but there was an experience in Afghanistan. Like, I was in Afghanistan, I got back home July 4th of 2010, and then I was out of the Marine Corps July 23rd. It was like, Afghanistan, now I'm sitting in California by myself.
Yeah.
And so I drove across the country for about 6 months, living out of my car, just trying to like recenter myself, and started going to paramedic school back in San Diego. And then there was this experience that I had though with one of the MARSOC teams, and the Marine Corps never had a special operations component. They always had like force reconnaissance, things like that, but never an actual special operations command designated unit. And they started one up in 2006 roughly. I ran into them out in Afghanistan in 2010. Had this really long conversation with a guy named Chris Antonick all night about what they were doing, and really just inspired me. And 2 days later, he died. So when I got back to the States, I found out that he ended up stepping on an IED, improvised explosive device, ended up killing him. And I don't know why, but that just bothered me. And so I just one day went online and I looked up what it would take for me as a inactive, we call it inactive reservist when you get out at first. I was like, could I go to MARSOC selection? And literally like that day, they put out a letter that said, hey, if you're an inactive reservist, you can go try out for MARSOC. It was like divine intervention. So I said, okay, cool. So I tried out, ended up making it through all the selection, all the training. It was about a year of training. And then re-enlisted, man. Ended up doing a few more deployments and lots of ups and downs in there. Lots of very interesting, dynamic experiences.
You have a very unique story. So, and my mind immediately does the American thing of going towards the movies that I've seen, and I'm looking for relatability, but I'm also not looking to like offend.
Dude, you know what I mean? Nothing you could say will offend.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
But I'm like, so you're thinking like, okay, like how accurate is like American Sniper?
It's pretty accurate. They dramatize a couple of things in it, but for the most part, it's pretty accurate. The thing about movies that really is just the facade is, you get like the music and stuff, and it like gives you this sense of emotional evocation, and in reality, it's
there ain't
just
no music, dude.
No, it's just grimy, and when you die, you're usually face down in the dirt, and you're literally inhaling dirt, and there's nothing you could do because you can't control your body anymore. It's not romantic in any sense. Shooting somebody was never, at least not for me, never really romantic. It just was like kind of what it is, objective. And then afterwards, I was just kind of like, it's kind of like a waste of life,
Yeah.
So it's somewhat accurate, but at the same time, it's always you're never gonna. When we were out shooting, first thing he realized, he's like, God damn, he's like, the heat and the weight of the gun and running back and forth, he's like, this is like physically demanding, and we were only out there for like, I don't know, couple hours. So you don't get that when you're sitting in your seats.
And absolutely not, dude. Imagine like, it's one thing when like all of military preparation of doing, what do they call them, treks?
Yeah, like ruck marches and stuff,
Yeah, when you do like a ruck or something like that, what do they make you do, like 5 miles or something with all your gear? What's the most you ever had to ruck?
20 plus miles.
Yeah, with like full like 50, 70 pounds worth of gear?
Yeah, about that.
Can't even imagine, dude.
I mean, it's kind of just going back to what you were talking about a moment ago.
One step at a time.
Yeah, it's all about your mindset and what you determine is doable. There is some sort of physical limitation when your body starts to seize up on you or something like that, but as long as your body keeps moving, and your mind just keeps telling yourself, hey, go 10 more steps, 10 more steps, 10 more steps. I mean, you literally go nuts.
Yeah.
You'll literally go crazy on some of these things, but it's just what you do to keep moving.
Yeah. Okay, so after that season of life, where does that lead to next?
A lot of drinking, a lot of debauchery, a lot of depression. So we had some incidents that took place, and I ended up dealing with a lot of survivor's guilt. Ended up getting in trouble, got thrown out of the Marine Corps, and in that process, when I was getting kicked out, I got kicked off my team, and long story short, they all died. Everybody who I was in charge of, and again, the guy who replaced me, all ended up dying shortly after I got kicked off. And that really, as you can probably imagine, like, dude, that just tore a hole in my chest. And I was just slugging booze and popping prescription meds and popping a lot of Molly too. Like, I was like taping clean piss to the inside of my leg and using that for drug tests and stuff. And I was just like a wreck, like just crazy wreck. And almost ended up blowing my brains out, like, I don't know, a few hundred times. And that's really where I started to just hit a true, like, I almost ended up murdering a guy one night, and I was going to murder him and then I was going to kill myself. And that was just this crazy night I had in this condo. I mean, I was just done. I was done, bro. You know, a lot of grief, a lot of just like misdirected energy. And instead of trying to find purpose in it all, I was just becoming very self-destructive. And so, because I mean, it's like all your identity. This is like the biggest thing that people who leave the military struggle with is every day you have a purpose.
Yes.
18 months at a time, my life was planned out. You know, I had a tight group of guys who I was very intimately, you know, working with, and we had a mission, and we were a fluid machine, and we did things, and we did the most craziest things imaginable. We're jumping out of planes, we're blowing shit up, we're shooting bad guys, partying, banging chicks, whatever. And ultimately, it just really caught up to me and took a huge toll. And somehow I ended up having this moment of just, what is up with me? And that's when I started going to bed early, stopped drinking, started getting up at 3 a.m., which I still do to this day, and just really trying to find purpose in myself. And I learned about the brain and how it functions, and mindset, quantum physics, Joe Dispenza, Ed Millett, dudes like that, and started to turn my life around.
Yeah, dude. That's deep.
It was wild.
Yeah, it's deep. And you're so like melodramatic about it, you know what I mean? Which brings it, but it also brings also a level of like, I don't know if you would call completion, because I don't believe in completion. I think completion's death. Like the job's done when you take your last breath.
Okay.
But it brings a sense of, I don't know. I tell my guys, you know, I think maturity is reflected in ownership and responsibility. You know what I mean? I think a lot of individuals' immaturity is reflected in your inability to take the ownership of what you need to take ownership over, and seeing all the ownership that you have in you right now. There's a poise and a stoicism to you. It's like, oh yeah, this dude went through some shit. He went through hell, but you own it and you've evolved and grown through it.
Yeah, and I'll never go back to it.
Yeah.
There's no way, now that I understand how the brain, the mind, life really works, there's no way I could ever go back to that, because that's what these douchebag military industrial complex, you know, I don't want to call them the elite, politically elite, but that's what they want, is they want people to be dumb, drugged up, and killing themselves. Especially veterans, especially special operations dudes, because we're the biggest threat to their, you know, control factor.
Well, that's like what Rogan talks about a lot, and I forget what they called the experiment, but when they started testing individuals, you know, with the different psychedelics and things like that, and to try to use them as you know, I don't know, you know, tools of war in a sense. I know there's a specific experiment that it was called, because he literally talks about it.
Talking about World War II?
World War II is probably when it originated.
Yeah.
When they started, it was a matter of marijuana, psychedelics, and
and then the 60s came along with that whole, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But it's the same thing with drugs too. Like I look at that just like with health insurance and just like the political propaganda of everything. It's like, if I look at it, and it's so simple, everything's so evident. You know what I mean? Like if the government isn't getting a piece of it, then it's illegal. You know what I mean? Because if you look at the hardcore drugs, if you look at Xanax that they prescribe to people, you look at ADHD medications they typically prescribe to kids, it's Adderall, which is methamphetamine.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So to prescribe a child meth,
literally meth.
you know what I mean? Over, and you know, I guess you can't compare because I'm not a scientist. I don't know like the pros and cons of marijuana and everything like that. But I do know meth. It probably is a lot worse than marijuana.
You just have the kid fucking run around, man. Like that's, you know, that's my biggest thing is like you look at cars, you look at the education institutions, you know, from like 100 years ago.
Yes.
Cars aren't the same, yet the classrooms are.
Yeah.
Why is that? Well, it's because they're building workers. They're building compliant worker bees. You know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump into the next season. From the boozing, the depression, you defeat that. You're getting up. You're 3 a.m. Your self-development. What does the next season of life look like?
A lot of ups and downs still. You know, it wasn't just one steady thing. And I'm very open about this stuff because I want anybody who's listening to know that you have the ability to accept responsibility for your life and where it's at, because in the end, it is all you. There's nobody else responsible for your life, the bad, the good, everything in between, except for yourself, plain and simple. And the moment that you realize that, now you could actually take control of your circumstances, because we're emotional creatures.
Yeah.
We process information from our environment into the emotional part of our brain 2 times faster than any other part. So when you have emotions, when you're reacting to your environment, you're a highly reactive emotional person, which therefore controls your thoughts, which therefore controls your actions. However, as human beings, we have this unique ability to consciously take a moment and intervene against those emotions,
Yeah.
change our physiological state, raise our energy and our vibration, which then therefore is us consciously influencing the emotions, which then therefore influences the action. So you kind of reverse it. So you have to accept that responsibility. And I was doing some crazy stock options trading. I was making a bunch of money, and then I lost it all. And then I made a bunch, and then I lost it all. Then I made a bunch, and I lost it all. I lost like $90,000 like 3 days in a row, like consecutively. Like $270,000 was gone in 3 days. And yeah, I was just up and down trying to find my way. I was doing some overseas contracting. I had a close call in Somalia. I had a close call in West Africa. Almost ended up burning down a hotel. These hatchet-wielding Nigerians. It was a weird situation.
Like government contracts, kind of like the movie War Dogs?
Not like I wasn't selling product. I was performing a service
Okay,
for
that
an
makes sense.
intelligence
Yeah.
group.
Yeah.
And it got so sketchy. And I just had a kid at the time. Do you have any kids?
I don't.
So I just had a kid at the time, and when I got home from that trip, not only was I literally almost hacked up alive in the middle of some African street, but I remember holding my kid, and he was heavier. Like he wasn't the same human as he was when I left.
Wow.
He was like heavier, and I started to think to myself, man, do I really want to miss that time in between? And I don't know how the guys on the teams did it.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, I don't want to. And so that's when I really started to focus my efforts here into the States and teach people how to be lethal, man, how to have a positive
That's
mindset,
it, yeah.
cultivate mental and emotional resiliency, how to face adversity and accept adversity, which I
Yes.
love the name, by the way, because that's what makes us who we are. That's what forges you into the person you're made to become.
It's a blessing.
Mhm.
The burden is always a blessing. The blessing's hidden in the burden.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I always tell people, because a lot of us, and I find it in myself, and it's that inner bitch, just praying for ease, praying for a better, you know what I mean? Like
All day.
just a better route or a shortcut or something like that. And you start to realize if you pray the pain away, you also pray the blessing away. So I came to this conclusion one night. I'm sitting here laying on the couch, sleeping on the couch, and I'm just sitting here thinking, and I'm like, how could this be easier? And I'm like, okay, well, there's probably 2 or 3 options in life. It can be easier, and all of the opportunity for me to have like evolution and elevation in life and getting better goes away.
Yeah.
I can just accept mediocrity and stop. The second choice is I keep going through the pain and I keep leveling up, because as I reflect back, the pain has always led to a level up.
Every time.
And the third choice is I fucking die. You know what I mean? So I boiled it down to really just 2 things. You know what I mean? You're either going to get rid of the pain, quit, you know what I mean? Quit on your dreams and goals, quit on your legacy, or you're going to die. You know what I mean? So it's like, for me, it's like, okay, well now it's a super simple solution. Just keep going forward. Because like the other options aren't options. I'm not going to die. This guy calls me home, and I'm not going to just quit and accept mediocrity. For me, measuring wealth isn't just measuring it through monetization. You know what I mean? It's not just a matter of money, because I wouldn't want to be a billionaire and be, you know what I mean, like physically have control over my health. You know what I mean? It's nothing to the people that don't have physical control. You know what I mean? I never want to offend. But the people, if you have control over your health, you can control your body, and you're not taking care of your body, then it's like, I wouldn't want to be the billionaire that like let myself go.
No.
You know what I mean? Because now you just cut your life into a third. Anybody I've ever listened to that's got hundreds of millions of dollars, they always ask for one thing. They always want one thing. And it's never more money.
Health.
They just want health or age. They want to go back. Like
Yeah.
I listen to Hormozy a lot, and you remind me a lot of him with level of intelligence. and the way
I'm
you speak.
telling you, dude.
Yeah, he sounds a lot like
Just
Hormozy.
like Hormozy.
That's a good compliment.
Yeah, it's a great compliment. But dude, so like you listen to him a lot. He's like, dude, I've got 100 million plus now, and I'm close to 40 or however old he is. He's like, you know what I want? I want to be 25. I'll start over. I just want to be 25 again. I want to be 20 years old again. And there's another cool thing that he uses, and I try to use, before having fucking freak out attacks, is if it wouldn't, most things pretty much aren't going to matter tomorrow. The things that we freak out about,
Yeah.
they probably aren't going to matter tomorrow. So why are we freaking out about it? How am I going to make this happen? How am I going to make that happen? What about this relationship? What about this? What about that? It's like, dude, in 20 hours, probably sometimes even 20 minutes, you're not going to care. Your body's having that emotional reaction, and you're just consciously freaking the shit out.
Yeah.
And making something, anxiety. You're making something based off of a thought of what could be that doesn't even exist yet.
Yeah, because you're giving it energy, because your energy flows where your attention goes, right?
Yes.
So when you give it attention, you're giving it energy, and then you're feeding that
Yeah.
into something that it doesn't even need to be. Some of the best advice I ever got from a great friend of mine, he's a former meth addict down in Austin, Texas, runs a major recovery program down there now. It's awesome. It's called Communities for Recovery. It's very unique. And when him and I would go on these walks, he would go, man, you ever just like think when you're dealing with a struggle, he goes, maybe it's not as big of a deal as you think it is.
1000%.
And what if you just thought that every single time that you start to get upset about something, go, is this, maybe it's not as big of a deal.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of blow past it. You don't give it the energy and the focus and the attention. And before you know it, it's not.
Yeah.
You know, I was mentoring this younger guy. A couple weeks ago, he had a friend kill himself. He's like 18. And I told him, I was like, look, man, you know, somebody who's been there, I think back to those problems. And don't get me wrong, like the survivor's guilt piece, you know, I don't know if I'll ever not have some emotional tether to the fact that literally a dude, you know, died, you know, replacing me. It is what it is. It's not my fault. You know, it's whatever divine intervention or just whatever is meant to be is meant to be. But I look back at those things and those problems that I've had in my life. The things that I found relevant 5 years ago, I don't even think about them anymore.
Yeah.
So I was telling this young kid, I was like, dude, if your buddy would have just held on for a few more days and then a few more months and then a year, I guarantee you, and this goes for anybody who might be struggling with wanting to kill themselves, the shit that you're so upset about right now in 5 years has no significance on your life. None.
Zero.
And so when people are saying, oh, I'm just at that edge, that cusp, you know, my first thing I tell them is stop drinking, right? Because like 90% of people, I'm making that number up, but you know, kill themselves when they're drinking or doing drugs and shit.
Yes.
And so if you just stop that, find out when the demons are coming out. For me, it was nighttime when I drink, do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Start going to bed early, start getting up early.
Yes.
And start to change your environment and those habits. But
physical exhaustion. You know, I find myself like with those demons of darkness. Like for me, I have to get a step above. The gym is nice. I gotta get punched in the face. You know what I mean? I love to fight. And it's not an anger thing for me. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, I want to fight because I'm angry.
it's a reality check.
Yeah, it's a reality check. There's humility. I love the humility. Like jujitsu has brought me so much, you know, humbleness.
Bro, I've never felt like such a useless piece of shit in my life, man. I'm trying to
Jiu-jitsu, dude.
Can't even get this dude at all.
And it's, I noticed it's everything in life. You know what I mean? There's like, you remove the belts and you just realize there's reps to everything to get to a certain level of like excellence or like goodness. The shooting, I can be a great shot if I go get 100,000 shots in. The issue is I've got 100 shots in. You know what I mean?
But I would even say, let's not focus on the 100,000. Let's just focus on the next 10.
Yeah.
You know?
Facts.
And that's like a thing for life too, right? Because you're absolutely right. It's all about the reps.
Yeah.
But let's not immediately go to that
large number that seems unbearable.
Legendary, you know, let's just, hey man, next month, let's do 50 rounds,
Yeah.
you know, small box of ammo. Okay, cool. And this is something I tell people all the time, especially the people that I work with now. We ended up creating a group called the Lethality University because I want to teach people how to be lethal, man.
Yeah.
You know,
That's so important.
Dude, how to be deadly, but yet still have mental and emotional resilience and cultivate a strong mind, strong body. But so I just tell them that. I'm like, dude, don't focus on the end goal. Just focus on the next step.
One of the places I go into my mind when I'm training, whether it's in the gym or when I'm training fighting, you know, between jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, whatever it is I think to myself when I want to give up, when I'm running and I want to give up, and I'm like, if America went to war and we had an invasion on land, and the Russians, the Dagestanians, it doesn't matter. It's hardcore men that are raised in mountains, raised to kill, walk into my home. And it's just hand-on-hand combat. Nobody has access to their guns. They were close enough where it's just, I'm gonna fucking kill you with my hands, or you're gonna kill me. And it's just like Genghis Khan. Like if they get you, they get your wife and your family.
That's what
goes to my mind. Is like, I swear to God, I don't care if it's Goliath. You know what I mean? I'm training with the, and you know, people probably think that's insane, but like,
it's not.
I look at like time and I look at variables and I look at like the odds of something happening. It's not like it. That's not very impossible.
No.
It's not very impossible for us to go to war, have invasions, or someone to just break into the home.
That's what I was gonna say.
And you not be prepared. It's not as unlikely as people think. And a lot of people think I'll just black out and I'll beat someone's ass, dude. someone with some level of training, I don't care what you black out and do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've rolled with many people, about many people like, I'm blacking out. I'm like, black out all you want, dog. I've done this 1,000 times.
I prefer you black out.
Yeah, you're unconscious.
Yeah, the person who's cool, calm, collected. Here's the thing I tell people is that, one, break-ins and rapes and murders, and let me just be clear, most people are good people.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like propagate fear. The vast majority of people are good people.
Yeah.
Like, I think 0.3% of Americans are locked up for violent crime, something like that.
Yeah.
So that means one out of, every, I don't know, 0.3 people out of every, 100 or something. Anyways, point is that most people are good people, don't lose sight of that. But what I tell people is that you don't hear about a lot of these break-ins, these random home invasions, these rapes, these murders, because we live in the greatest emergency response system ever created in the history of humanity.
Yeah.
You could literally murder somebody on the sidewalk, and pending investigation, it's cleaned up and gone in an hour like it never even happened. So of course that's going to breed a lot of ignorance. And if you want to know how often it happens, I tell people, talk to a 911 operator. If you know one, first of all, thank them, because they go through some crazy shit.
Wow.
But if you really want to know what's taking place around your environment, talk to a 911 operator, and they'll tell you. It happens a lot, more often than you hear by far.
Yeah.
Hardened criminals, these are some hard motherfuckers. And I can tell you from personal experience, like being on the streets and shooting up dope and buying dope from these guys all the time, they will fucking kill you with their bare hands.
Yeah.
They're not pussies. Everyone always gets this idea of like a guy with a gun, gangbanger, being like some scrawny little, twerp. And yeah, sure, that does exist.
Mm.
But a lot of these people are coming out of prison. And prison, dude, it's not a joke.
No.
And the vast majority of Americans, 60% are diabetics. You think that those people who have type 2 diabetes are going to beat up some, hardened dude?
Dude.
And I like what you said there, because my mind goes to my wife and my children.
Yeah.
And even if they don't rape and murder you guys, they just, let's say, beat you up and rob you, smack your wife around a little bit.
Yeah.
You think she's at a primal subconscious level? You think she's ever going to feel safe with you again?
So true.
You think your kids
Oh my God.
are going to look up to you?
Yeah.
You think that your relationship is going to be healthy?
Yeah.
Because you're going to be over projecting yourself, trying to make up for the emasculated, event that took place.
Yeah.
And arguments are going to, occur. You're not going to be able to make love to your wife anymore because at that primitive level, her energy is no longer feeling safe and secure with you.
1,000%.
And this also kind of bleeds over into a lot of the, you can kind of tell me to stop if I'm going too far when I talk about the woke culture that we have in modern America these days.
Oh, 1,000% agreement.
Which, by the way, is Chinese influenced propaganda designed to break apart the nuclear family and the inside of the American society. Yeah. It's 100%. It's called the 100-Year Marathon or the 100-Year Plan or something. They wrote a book on it, and they're like in year 75. But for the people who have these science and Black Lives Matter and everybody's gender equal or whatever the hell those weird flags are all over the place, you are the perfect person to get broken into and to get beat up and victimized.
Yeah, literally.
Because I know you don't have a gun.
Yeah.
And I know you definitely don't have the ability to inflict violence upon
Zero
anyone.
ability.
So, for you people who want to display those flags, probably not any of your listeners, but
Yeah, no, dude, and I'm so glad you brought up like all these different topics, because I also as soon as we brought up our emergency response system, do you recall, it wasn't long ago and it still lingers around, let's defund the police.
bro.
Could you imagine? Because I believe the highest.
It's the most stupid shit I've ever heard in my life.
Could you imagine? I think the highest casualty rate when it comes to from my understanding, and I don't have a lot of research, this is what I've heard, is that when the police get the 911 operators and the police get call-ins, when it's a domestic dispute or there's some type of break it, that's usually the highest casualty rate.
For cops,
so imagine a therapist pulling up, you know what I mean, or someone, hey guys, just breathe, you know what I mean, and this dude just walked in, maybe he caught his girl cheating or something like that. Breathing isn't gonna work, Joe. You're dead now too. You know what I mean? You got shot, she got shot, and he shot himself.
You're lucky if they shoot you, man. They might just tear your freaking whole face apart and rip your head in two.
Yeah.
You could literally, if you dug your thumbs into the human eyes, you could literally rip a face apart.
Wow.
And the brain can come out. Yeah, I've never seen that, but I do know a guy personally who did get involved in a confrontation. He was getting stabbed up, and he went and he did rip the dude's freaking skull apart. And I can't talk too much more about it because that's an ongoing court thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's just let that sink in for a moment and say, oh, well, let's just walk up and be sensitive to these people. It's like, I get it, we'll be sensitive to the situation, but if a guy's beating his wife or his kids up or something like that, or really just anything, man, defunding the police is just, it's a communism move.
Yeah.
Because it creates chaos in society, and then, you know, if they don't get to fully defund the police, you know, but they get to like reduce the budget, who do they have to then hire? Dumb people to fill those roles. So now you get more police incidents that are like occurring.
Yeah.
Like the chick who just got shot in the head by the Illinois trooper. That's such a horrible. Yeah. That dude should have never even been a cop, in my opinion. And so it's like now people want to.
They should overfund them.
Yeah, exactly. Because you need good paying jobs. You need to give people resources.
The military that retires or leaves after 4, and they should be top priority.
Maybe.
Some type of, because I think about like rehabilitation programs from military, and then also for like both my parents went away, and like horrible rehabilitation of like my mom was like impossible for her to like find a job. You know what I mean? Like
that is a real thing. Yeah.
So I think on both ends of the spectrum of like, because you think of the civilian like identity crisis of like being at war and having, you got your brothers, you're bleeding, you're sweating, you're doing everything day to day, and then you come to like, hey, let's go to Walmart,
grocery aisle.
You know what I mean? Let's go like, dude, no, I'm a lion, I'm a killer. And then you also got the individuals that sit in a cell for 2 years, and then they come back and they're hungry and they want to take care of their family, they want to take care of their kids, and all you can do is like people just look down upon you. Like I just remember like how we grew up, and like you just look down on my mom, and like she just worked day and night. She was a hospice nurse, bro. She took care of like dying people.
Yeah,
and
that's rough work.
You know, and I just think to myself like, dude, this is the sweetest lady in the world. She was guilty through association, you know, just like white collar, just some like white collar crime. So like again, non-violent. And it's insane. I just think, I'm like, dude, who came up with this system? I look at like our prison system. It's like one of the dumbest things in the world.
It's privatized.
Like, literally.
It's another one of the things that just
prints money.
And then you go through like a lot of these neighborhoods, and what do they have? Liquor stores and like pawn shops. You know, like what these community members, like the competent ones, you know, I train a lot of concealed carry in Illinois, and a lot of these people will come in from like the Lawndale neighborhoods, from the Crazy 100 neighborhoods in the South Side, Inglewood, and they're older, and they're like, Joe, I can't even leave my house. I'm so petrified because there's no police there anymore. The police can't respond, and all it is liquor stores and pawn shops where all the gangbangers are hanging out and selling drugs. And so, you know, it's a perpetual cycle. And I will say that, so when I was going to high school, I got kicked out of 3 high schools, and they ended up sending me to a juvenile behavioral rehab program. It's juvie for daytime. I didn't sleep. I wasn't in a cell.
There's my diploma right there. I got sent to a cyber charter school, so I got kicked out my sophomore year.
Yeah.
And I did everything online.
Which one is this?
Right there. It's Pennsylvania Cyber Charter.
Cool. So like, I'll say this, is that I went into those programs, and I wasn't the best kid.
Yeah.
But dude, when I got out of those programs, I was infinitely worse. And had I not watched my best friend graduate from that Marine Corps boot camp,
I
mean,
game over.
Yeah, I mean, I had already overdosed 3 times.
Yeah.
You know, like my sister found me once,
wow.
and dude, breaks my heart to even think. I honestly don't even know to this day if she knew what was going on, because she was so young. But it's definitely not a good system. A lot of people get out, they want to make a difference, they want to have a second chance at life, and unfortunately, it's just not set up to really benefit them.
Not at all, man. Dude, what's the future look like for you? What's the next? I hate to label things with time. I just take things literally day by day, and I have general goals. You know, where I'm pushing, everything's kind of growth oriented for me, opposed to just goals. There's not a destination. Mm-hmm. But like, where are you generally headed? What's the future look like for you?
Big focus for me now, man, is I want to train 1 million people in Lethal U, the Lethality University.
Yeah.
It's a network. I want people to communicate and to get to know each other. All 50 states, I want 1 million people in it, because when we learn how to take care of ourselves, when we learn how to defend ourselves and our families, there's a couple of things to think about here. One is generational security.
Yeah.
So your kids will emulate you. Your kids will see your behaviors, your mannerisms, the things that you take seriously in life. And if you don't want your daughters to get raped when they go off in high school and college, if you don't want your kids to be douchebag, drunken idiots who end up crashing a car and killing a family or something, then you need to embody that, what I call the lethal lifestyle, a positive mindset, cultivating strength and masculinity within the self, and then exemplifying that for the family to also take on. And then that becomes generational security. So that's the first major impact that I want to have in terms of like legacy. And then in the more short term, when I know how to look out for myself, and you know how to look out for yourself and they know how to look out for themselves.
Yeah.
Now I could look out for you and you could look out for me
Yeah.
and we could look out for them and our societies become safer. And I
Yeah.
can tell you a number of experiences and also the way that the brain works in a primitive level. The brain's number one priority, avoid death and pain.
Yes.
Number one priority.
Yes.
And when these younger dudes coming up underneath these, criminals, seeing them shoot people, get away with it, jack cars, it's cool, it's fun, because that's what it is. It's fun. It's cool to be in a gang. It's exciting. It's exhilarating, right? But when they see the guy coming back with a gunshot wound and he's wearing a colostomy bag for the rest of his life, when they see a guy come back with a gunshot wound and he's paralyzed from the waist down and his dick don't work anymore and he has to piss in a bag all the time, when they see a guy come back and he gets shot in the arm and they have to amputate the arm, or it's got some crazy nerve damage and he can't use it anymore,
Yeah.
they're going to say, man, that $15 an hour job over at McDonald's doesn't seem so bad anymore. And so it's unfortunate that that's what it needs to come to, but that's just the fucking reality that we're living in life. There's always going to be somebody who's trying to hurt or victimize somebody else.
Yeah.
And the only way, and I know this from my military experience, ISIS is coming through slaughtering villages. What's the one thing that we do as the United States? You want to talk about gun control? You know how the U.S. implements gun control in the rest of the world? They send well-trained, well-armed, well-funded dudes like me and my boys over there with a shit ton of guns, and we teach you how to kill motherfuckers so that you could fucking stand up to that bully.
Yeah.
And then you put the fucking hard line in the sand, and you fucking slaughter them all back.
Yeah.
And then what happens? Peace is found once again in a best case scenario. There's a lot of variables to that, and unfortunately we don't make money off of peace, which is the U.S. military industrial complex.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, you punch a bully in the face hard enough and they're not coming back anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's what I want to do. I want to get 1 million people in so that we could network and we could build up a society within our society that looks out for one another.
Man, this has been absolutely fire, and I think one thing in conclusion, because there are a lot of dark things happening right now in this great nation, but there is one thing that still stands true to my understanding, to my knowledge, is we're still the most armed nation in the world. You know what I mean?
You can't let them take it away, bro.
Day and night.
You cannot let them take it away.
Yeah.
You can't.
No, then we're open. It's open season.
Look what's going on in England right now, man.
Yeah.
Crazy riots and shit going on.
Dude, I think my girl was supposed to go over there, and I was like, you're not going over there. They just stab everybody. It seems like every day. It's like you hear something about just anybody and everybody can get in there, and there's just stabbing.
She's probably like, fuck, you're from Israel. Bro.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just go over there and start shooting people, whatever. But dope, dude. Where can people find you?
JoeMaloneTraining.com, Joseph Malone Official is my Instagram.
Okay.
Those are the two most active places.
Let's go.
Yeah. Guys,
This was one of my favorite podcasts I did this year, and I've done a lot of pretty solid podcasts. So make sure you guys check out Joe Malone. I know I want to stay armed up. I'm going to be out of Chicago, so I'll be able to be armed up a little more and be a little more lethal, because it's good to be hand-to-hand combat, but probably 98% of everything that goes down, if it were to be pretty extreme, it's going to be with some weapons. So
100%.
I love being able to. There's one thing to bring a knife to a gunfight, but it'd be real bad to bring a head kick to a gunfight.
Yeah.
Bring jujitsu, just drop to my butt. Come here, let's arm bar. Dude's got a shotgun in my house. Blows my leg off. Not gonna work. So make sure you check out Joe Malone, guys. Peace. Varsity Cakes.